This is it. Don't get scared now.
Yep, you know what that means. It's time for my favorite time of year. Good evening, folks. Hope you all had a good work week. Welcome to the Game Reserve. My name is Jager Newman, and I'm Warren in these parts. And tonight we are playing Castlevania. This game was released in 1986, I want to say. And it was one of the earliest games ever released for Nintendo Entertainment System. It was created by Konami, who basically knew from the get-go that the NES was going to be the biggest thing in the world. So they made a point to get a game out on the console as soon as possible. They really wanted to appeal to a Western audience, so they decided to theme the game after, old horror movies. You know, Dracula, Frankenstein, The Mummy, Creature from the Black Lagoon, all that good stuff. And the result was Castlevania, and immediately it found an audience, both in America and in Japan. Well, Castlevania would never sell as well as something like Mario or the Legend of Zelda series. It's always been a big fan favorite for fans of the NES, and throughout the years, Castlevania has always chugged along. It's one of the few gaming franchises that actually counts its history in decades, which, I can count the amount of franchises that can do that on one or two hands, so that is really impressive. However, it is one of those games I always said has been quietly loved, but never that popular. That is until 2004, when YouTube started making the rounds, and it saw the rise of one of its first real stars, which was, of course, James Rolfe, the Angry Video Game Nerd. His first video game review was actually Simon's Quest, Castlevania 2, and later on, when he started doing the Angry Video Game Nerd show regularly, he did a full Castlevania retrospective. I feel like this is what really put Castlevania into the mainstream, because that's how a lot of people, especially my age, were introduced to the franchise. After seeing James Rolfe play these games for his show, I picked up Super Castlevania for the Nintendo Wii, and over the next decade or so, I would seek out and play every single game in the Castlevania series, and I would even do a full retrospective over on my blog of it. So yeah, I'm a pretty big fan of Castlevania, and I'm really excited to showcase it for you guys. As to how I'm going to be playing this game, I'm going to be playing it via the Castlevania Anniversary Collection, which is currently available on all platforms, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, whatever Xbox you have, PC, and of course Nintendo Switch. I got the Nintendo Switch version, that's just what I got. I feel like Castlevania is good for a portable console. But anyway, let's go ahead and get started here. Do a quick sound check. Which is currently available. Alright, here we go. Yeah, it's funny looking at the games been playing on the Nintendo Switch, isn't it? Please play in a well-lit room. No, I guess I'm good. And I guess since we've got it open, might as well look at the Castlevania collection. So what the Anniversary Collection is, it mostly makes up the old, as the Happy Video Game Nerd called it, the Vintage Vania era of the series. So you got the original NES trilogy, as well as Super Castlevania and Castlevania Bloodlines, the Sega Genesis game, and even Castlevania The Adventure and Castlevania Belmont's Revenge. No Castlevania Legends for whatever reason. I'm not sure why they left that one out. But you also have Kid Dracula, which is kind of neat. That's a really obscure Japan-only game, so it's cool that they included that. Something else that's cool about these games is you also have the option to play the Japanese version of these games. Now, that might not sound like that big a deal, but there are some minor differences, particularly in the case of Castlevania 3. But tonight we're playing Castlevania. But yeah, this is a great collection, so if you're looking to try out these games, this is what I recommend getting. It's very reasonably priced, and you get a lot of bang for your buck. Anyway, let's go ahead and play. So, pretty good title screen. The title itself is very ornate in its graphic design, but still very readable. It's not as overdone as I think the modern title is. And the color actually works pretty well. The green, blue, and red actually works great for, the style and tone the game is going for. And of course, you got the edges of the old film strip, which, referencing the game's horror roots. So, the plot of the first Castlevania game is very simple. You take the role of Simon Belmont, a vampire hunter, as he goes to slay Dracula. Alright, so the first thing... So, it's a style of the time. That was the plot of most games on the NES. So, the first thing we always talk about are the controls. And to start with, the controls have always been described as stiff by gamers. So, you only have one movement speed, and that's the Belmont strut. Simon doesn't pick up speed like Mario does. He also doesn't have plate control. You can only jump straight up or straight forward, and there's nothing in between. So if you're jumping forward and you choose to jump, you are dedicated to that arc. There's no change in your trajectory. Your primary attack is, of course, the Vampire Killer Whip. And there's a bit of a delay from when you actually push the button to when you strike with the whip. There's a wind-up, which might sound like a bad thing, but it's actually really satisfying. You feel like you're putting some oomph into it. And you also have your special attacks, which you execute by pushing up on the D-pad plus the attack button. That's pretty much the moveset. Fairly simple, but complex for an NES game. But anyway, let's get into the castle. Starting out in the Great Hall, and we encounter our first enemies, which are basically just zombies. Not too difficult to deal with. They just kind of run at you and they die in one hit, so they aren't terribly difficult to deal with. You might be wondering why I'm taking the time to hit the candles. Well, in Castlevania, those hearts, well, that's actually ammo for your sub-weapons. In this case, I have the stake. So, you need to be sure you keep that replenished so you can use them when you want to. Now I just switched to the Holy Water, which is a throwable attack that leaves a fiery residue. They call it the Firebomb in the American release because Nintendo had a thing against religious references in their games. Pretty useful. And that's one of the cool things about Castlevania. Your side weapons are actually permanent upgrades, and you can pick and choose which ones you want to wield. And each one has their own strengths and weaknesses that you need to consider. For a lot of people, their favorite is the Holy Water because of how much damage it does to enemies. But my personal favorite has always been the Axe, which I think I'll be able to get before this level is out. I just hope I can make it to the end. I forgot that there's a time limit on Castlevania here. Yeah, the stairs. Everyone loves the stairs. Start to encounter bats as well. And now we got Gilman, isn't that cool? Yeah, it really was a stroke of genius to theme Castlevania after old horror movies, because it's just iconography that anyone can immediately recognize. Everyone knows Dracula, everyone knows Frankenstein, the Gilman, all that stuff. And it's brought to life by some stellar graphics for the NES. I mean, just look at all the detail here. The animations are detailed, the character sprites are great, and it's got one hell of a soundtrack too. One of the main constants with the Castlevania series has always been the music. I've always described it as like a gothic metal. It's really cool. I love it. Yeah, just picked up an invincibility potion. Not a common power-up, but it is useful at times. And now we get to our first boss here. I was actually able to make it go over here, get double shot. Ah, crap! No! Ah! When did I pick up the timer? Thought there was supposed to be a double shot in there. Is that where I got that from? Well. That was embarrassing, but I still won. My preference is the axe because it's one of the few attacks that you can actually lob into the air, and that allows you to attack whatever is directly above you, something that you can't do otherwise, which is why I prefer to have that than any other sub-item in the game. I guess now we're making our way through one of the towers, or dungeon, whatever this is. Getting some knights, a little bit tougher than the zombies, but not by a whole lot. Still pretty easy to deal with. Now I got the cross, or the boomerang as they call it. Basically, it goes longer than you whip, and it can make a return trip, so it can do a lot of damage if you know how to time it. Now we're about to encounter one of the more infamous enemies in the series, and that's the Medusa heads. So, all these things do is just fly across the screen in that wavy pattern, and you just gotta be sure you time it to either get by or take them out. They thankfully only die in one hit, but they have a really bad habit of putting the Medusa heads where you really don't want them to be. But that is part of the fun of Castlevania. It is well known for its challenging gameplay. See, like right here, the Medusa heads, they're not that bad, but when you're trying to platform like this, they can be an outright nightmare. Because Simon, if he takes a hit, he jumps backwards, so if there happens to be a pit behind you, you take a hit, that's basically a one-hit kill. It doesn't matter if you have any health left. Now, I actually do want the stopwatch here, because the boss here is actually weak against it. Some bosses are easier to fight, depending on the sub-item you have, though sometimes it's hard to get to the boss with that sub-item, so keep that in mind too. There's one section in particular where that's the case. Now I got these things. You really gotta time this because those things will kill you in one hit if you're not careful. Yeah, man, that Spike Vicar is really bad, isn't it? Ah! Too soon. Damn. And now I don't have the stopwatch, so this just got a lot harder. I also hate how you have to upgrade your whip, too. I feel like that's just a needless addition to the game. Just have the basic long-range whip from the get-go. Ah, crap. Didn't time that right, either. I'm sure there's some veterans of this game who are watching me play this and say, my god, this guy sucks. And rightfully so. I'm not an NES vet by any stretch of the imagination. Let's see, I gotta time this right. I've played Castlevania a lot, and I have managed to beat it, but I've only ever been able to do that through the use of save states, which I'm trying not to do tonight. I want to do this legit. Alright. If I'm not mistaken, I don't even have a side item to use against the upcoming boss, do I? These things are also really annoying to deal with. There's always been a big confusion as to the vampire killer. It is listed as a whip, but it looks more like a morning star, and that's something that even confused the makers of the Castlevania TV series on Netflix, where you have the vampire killer, but then you also have the morning star. Actually, the two weapons are supposed to be the same. The vampire killer was born of alchemy, so it's able to go back and forth between the two forms. Ah. Yeah, the Medusa. Yeah, in later games, they actually have Medusa herself appear, and she has the ability to petrify you if you get hit with a certain projectile attack. Those are always really annoying boss fights. Now the music is amping up. That means things are about to get tricky. Not super tricky, but tricky nonetheless. Now we got the hunchbacks, which just kind of hop all over the place. With them, I find it's best just to hold your ground for a second and wait for them to move, and then just time your whip strike. They only die in one hit, so they aren't too big of a pain to deal with. Same goes for the skeletons. Guess we're along the castle walls now. Oh, crap. I didn't think that one through. I should have just took a hit there. You see what I mean about that knockback? That is a frequent occurrence with Castlevania. Get back on the other side. Ugh. Stupid skeleton. Like, I get used to how enemies behave, but then, you do something different and all of a sudden they behave differently. It's not always consistent. Nah. Nope. Nah. Yeah, I'm just getting swarmed there. Usually, I haven't had this much trouble with this section as I've been playing all week. Ah, just time that. There we go. That's what I want him to do. There we go. Let the bird move. Take it out, or wait for it to off-screen itself. Ah! That's one thing I hate. If you happen to be standing near the stairs and you hit duck, you go down the stair. Oh man. Like, anyone who's played classic Castlevania will tell you how frustrating stairs are in these games, especially in Castlevania 3. If you're on the stairs, you're basically screwed. Got you this time, you little bugger. Alright, let's see here. That's better. I've always likened Castlevania to essentially the 8-bit equivalent of the Dark Souls style game. Now, I know that's something people say about a lot of games, but in the case of Castlevania, I feel it is pretty potent. Like what people always say when they criticize Souls-like games for being difficult is they say, just get good. And that definitely applies to Castlevania. Yes, the controls are stiff. Yes, there can be some unfair design. But if you know what you're doing, you can actually get really good at Castlevania. Like, I know I'm having a lot of trouble here, and we're already 21 minutes into the stream, but there are people who can play Castlevania start to finish and complete it within 28 minutes. So it's not necessarily that the game is poorly designed or anything, it's just that it expects a lot of you, and that's kind of the point. I actually wanted to have Manny and Autumn over to play this. Manny is actually an avid player of Souls-like games, so I thought it would be interesting to have him play this. But unfortunately, they can't make it. They couldn't make it tonight. Autumn and Manny are actually engaged now, so they're currently doing some wedding prep, which is why they couldn't make it tonight. And I can't fault them for that. I'm really excited for them. Oh, no! Oh. Did you try to take me out? Like, every time you take a hit, you're near a pit, like, you just tense up because you're like, please don't die, please don't die. That's just part of the fun of Castlevania, I would say. Yeah, being able to freeze time, that sure is useful, isn't it? I like how you can see Dracula's tower there in the background. That's really cool. Alright, now we got our next boss fight, which are the mummies. I think there's a pork chop here somewhere. There it is. That's a health item. So how you deal with these two is two mummies are going to come at you, and what you want to do is you want to try to get on either side of one of them so you can hit them both at the same time. Let's see if I can pull it off. There we go. There we go. Yeah, so one of the appeals of Castlevania in regards to its difficulty is that every time you conquer a section that you've struggled with for so long, you just feel a great sense of accomplishment. And the question I have is why, per se? And I think the reason it is so satisfying is because when you come to a boss, they actually give you the boss's life bar. So as you're attacking the boss for the first time, you'll see that life bar go down, and then let's say you die, like you just need that one more hit and you would have won before you took the hit yourself. And in doing that, it kind of makes you want to give it another try because it just makes you feel like you're close. And then when you do land that killing blow with only a sliver of health left, and then pick up the red orb and see your health regenerate, it just makes you feel like you achieved a great victory. Ah, crap. a great victory there. So that was just a smart design on the part of the developers. I haven't played a Souls game myself, so I don't know why it's rewarding despite its difficulty. That's something I'm really going to have to play at some point. Manny actually gave me a copy of Elden Ring, and I still haven't played it, which makes me feel really bad. But whenever I play games, I always try to play them in order, and I know Elden Ring is supposed to be a standalone game, but it is also kind of a spiritual successor to Dark Souls, which in and of itself is also a spiritual successor to Demon Souls. So I feel like I need to play all those games first. That's just how I play games. I like to play from the beginning so I can see how games have either progressively gotten better or worse as the years have gone by. Some pretty tricky platforming here too. A lot of enemies coming at you too, which can be a little stressful. Not a lot of room to maneuver here. But it is doable with a little bit of patience and some skill. As they always say, get good. It's not an insult, that's just how you need to play these games. More of the hunchbacks. How many of these guys does Dracula have? They actually explain why Dracula has the power over so many creatures of the night. One of his powers is something called the Power of Dominance, which allows him to basically absorb the souls of other creatures he's defeated. And I have a feeling that he has the ability to summon them on Moss, which would explain why he's got so many of the same monsters running around. Like, even though the story of the first Castlevania game is very simple, a lot of lore has been added to it over the years. It has become a very rich series in regards to all of that. That pork chop's making me hungry. I tried making some fried rice tonight and it was a disaster. I was trying something new. Go down, you little burger. And now we got a double header. Quasimodo and the Frankenstein monster. Or I guess that would be Igor. Or maybe Fritz? Watching the Angry Video Game Nerd, you kind of realize that there's a lot of confusion with certain monsters. He just kind of hops around. He basically just hits it. We'll call that a draw. Again, I want to stress that I really do not have any idea what I'm doing. I am not an expert at Castlevania, or NES for that matter. Though of all the NES games I have played, Castlevania is one of the games that I feel has held up the best. Like, this is just such a fun game to go back to. It's definitely held up a lot better, than, say, Zelda. Alright, probably not going to win this fight either, but I'm going to give it the old college try. Go! Did not want to do that. Like, there's a clear pattern there, obviously, but it's tricky avoiding it consistently with the way the controls are. You really gotta be planning a few steps ahead with how stiff the controls are, and as well as, you know, the delay of the whip and everything. Definitely doesn't feel as fluid as Mario Brothers, but that's kind of also, again, I feel like that's kind of the point. Alright, I got a full health bar this time. Surely I can do this. Ah! There's a good spot. Maybe not. Ah! So tricky. Take advantage of this while I can. Maybe not. What was the point again of invincibility there? Where'd that even come from? Like, sometimes it seems like the items are randomized, other times they aren't. Not sure what the deal there is. And now it's back, and now I can't get the health power up, and I have a feeling this guy is respawned too. Yep. That was something else that was a bit of a pain in the butt in a lot of NES games at the time, respawning enemies. Probably the most famous example would be in Ninja Gaiden. If an enemy was anywhere near close to the side of the screen, they would respawn infinitely, which made things super hard. I would honestly say that, what is it? Ninja Gaiden is much harder than Castlevania, and that's despite the fact that it has much smoother controls. But it's also got I can do this. I still got half an hour left. I want to see if I can get to the end of this game. Prove to the world that I can in fact do it. Who am I kidding? I've never been able to complete this game without cheating. Oh! Sometimes enemies just come when you really don't want them to. Like right there. You just gotta wait for that platforming to time its way. Yeah, it's tight. Oh, come on, I hit the jump button! Yeah. Come on now. Keep it moving. Don't want to dilly-dally because not only do you have a time limit, but you don't want the enemy behavior to change when you don't want it to. That would have been bad. Here we go. At least I can get through this part with a little effort. Like I said, just plant your feet, just strike at the right moment. Come on, you. Stupid bone dragon. Alright, I can do this. Ah! Probably would have been better if I kept the holy water. That's one thing that can be really annoying about this first game. If you pick up an item you don't want to, you're basically stuck with it. In later games, they would actually have you drop the item you previously had, so you can pick up the one you want, but that's unfortunately not the case in this first game, so be careful with that. Okay, I'm in good shape here. Let's see if I can get him this time. Ah. Get you this time. Ah! Close. But see, I just had that one sliver of health left, and because of that, I know I was close, so I want to try again. You see the psychology here? I see what you're doing, Konami. It's brilliant. Oh. Alright, here we go. Stand right here, I can score a lot of free hits. Take that first hit. Jump. Oh. Nope. Nope. Almost. Oh. I was trying to move, but I was mashing the button too. Like, if you go to attack, Simon stops in place. Okay, I'm not making that same mistake again. There's no point here, because by the time I make it to the next dragon, the invincibility potion would have timed out, so there's no point. Seriously, what purpose does that serve, that being there? The unlimited continues are nice, but it does kind of suck that you have to go back to the start of the level. Don't. Like, if you just input the commands wrong, you can put yourself in a bad spot. Oh. That was bad timing. I wonder if the stopwatch works on Frankenstein and Quasimodo. Or Igor, whoever it is. Or Fritz. Man, I hate that cliche. Igor, has he appeared in the old Universal Monster movies? He was... Wait, was he a hunchback? I can't remember. Because they got this part well in hand. Alright, need to be very careful not to get that stupid knife. I think it's in the second candle? Yeah. Ah, why did you turn around? Ah, I did again! It's probably a stupid D-pad. Well, but not getting to it with the stopwatch now. You little... Alright, I'm gonna get him this time. No, this might be good. Got a little more space here. Oh! 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 Hell! Yeah! No! Whoa! That was close. Yeah! God, that's satisfying. Though I'm probably not going to finish this because I know this next section is a lot harder. Yeah, just gonna let those guys off-screen themselves instead of trying to take them out. Okay, now we're definitely in a dungeon. Stupid stairs. Skeleton. As those hunchbacks are spawning again. Cheap little boogers. I could really use a pork chop right about now. I think there's one nearby, I can't remember. I think right here? No. The red skeletons are definitely a bit annoying. They're kind of like dry bones in Super Mario World. You take them down, and they'll stay down for a little bit, but then they'll get right back up. It's just kind of a problem when you have the hunchbacks coming at you. I think they move slower than the basic skeletons, too, and they don't jump. These knights are some of the toughest enemies in the game. They throw axes at 2 different altitudes, which can make them very difficult to deal. Like, this right here, like, you gotta climb up the steps to get to him, and if he happens to throw an axe at a low altitude as you're making your way up there, you're gonna take a hit. So, wait for it. Ugh. Thankfully, if you duck, the axe can't hit you. But unfortunately, you'll find very quickly they don't always put those knights in places where you can get at them like that. They put them in places that force you to move, and you'll probably see why here in a minute. About to get to what was probably the hardest section in the entire game. It's also a little funny, Nintendo always had a thing against religious imagery, but, I mean, there are some clear crosses on those coffins right there. I guess they couldn't get rid of everything in the game. And I guess Autumn is playing a Princess Maker Fairy. Weird how she's playing that on the Switch. I thought she was playing that on, what is it called? Steam as well. Ah, man, the axe is so useful. I think there's another knight up ahead. Maybe I'm mistaken there as well. Back you into a corner. Just whip away. Wish there was a way to just drop off the stairs, too. That would be useful. You always want to whip a wall. You never know if there's going to be a pork chop in there or not. Nice and easy. Whew. No! I didn't want that! That was a horrible place to put that. Oh wait. I want to go back down there. There's a pork chop in that wall. And believe me, I am going to need health for this next part. This is the part I was talking about. So you not only have to deal with these axes, but you also have to deal with Medusa heads. Come on, you. Alright, now you might be saying, well, you got through that alright, so I guess you're set. Unfortunately, it is not over, because the boss is right next here, and guess what it is? It's freaking Death! Death himself answers to Dracula. I am screwed. Come on, you. Come on. Nope. Oh, tight. Tight. Ah! Damn. Now I'm at a disadvantage because now my whip is shorter. Ten minutes left. Want to get that cross. Ah. Ah! Stupid Medusa heads. Ooh, this might be useful. It'd be really helpful if the stopwatch worked on the Grim Reaper. I have a feeling I'm not that lucky. I am not that lucky. Ah! I just realized something. I'm playing a game where you go around hunting monsters. With this hat on, I probably do look like Quincy Morris, don't I? Alright, let's try this again. Deuce on the right. Ah! This time that X. Ah! Just when you think you got it, you get sloppy. I'm going to keep going. I at least want to see if I can beat death before the night is over. I can do this. Those stupid knights again. That one's down. Taking advantage of a little bit of NES jank. I would have liked to have gotten that X. Stupid mother. Ah, crap. Probably shouldn't have done that. Hopefully I didn't bring that stupid skeleton over. There's a skeleton I was trying to avoid. That's alright, come on over here. Oh, I guess I off-screened that Axe Knight, which is nice. Nah. Ah, come on. Now, you just see the disadvantage I'm suddenly at? God, I hate that you gotta upgrade the whip. It's so stupid. In Super Castlevania 4, they cut the whip power-up down to just one power-up. And it was usually within the first candle you got, so it was kind of pointless. And for Rondo of Blood, they got rid of the whip upgrades completely, which is how it should be. So clearly someone at Konami agreed with me. Okay, got the axe. That'll make things easier. Oh, there's that axe. Only took 2 hits, that was weird. Huh. Well, it takes 2 hits with the axe to take out those guys. Maybe I can use this to my advantage. No! Ugh. Wasn't even aiming for that. Oh wait, I want the pork chop. Alright, this is probably going to be my last chance to get a shot at death, so here we go. Oh, I didn't want to throw it in that door. Oh, that actually helped. I think the game cheated. Alright, so I guess that's a good place to call it for tonight. So, Castlevania. I still think it's held up pretty well. Now, that's not to say that there aren't some issues with the game. The story, it is pretty basic, even for the time. There is a lot of NES jank with this one, with the ability to lose your side items and, the enemy behavior sometimes spazzing out. But for the most part, Castlevania just still holds up pretty well. Though the controls are a little stiff, the level design is for the most part good. It's a lot of fun to conquer the challenges of the game, so even though the game is absurdly hard, like, every time you defeat a boss that gives you so much trouble, there's always fist bumps, there's always hooter and hollering, like, it's just so satisfying to do so. Top it off with some amazing graphics for the NES and some of the best music in any game period. And it's no surprise that Castlevania would go on to become one of the great video game dynasties. Highly recommended. Pick up Castlevania Anniversary Collection and any of the other Castlevania collections that Konami has been releasing in recent years. There's also a Castlevania Requiem, which is Symphony of the Night and Rondo of Blood, 2 of the best games in the series. There's Castlevania Advance Collection, which is, all the games on the Game Boy Advance. And I think Dracula X for the Super Nintendo is there as well. And most recently, they put out Castlevania Dominus, which is a compilation of the 3 games that were released from the Nintendo DS, which are games that I'm really excited are out now because Portrait of Ruin is actually my favorite game in the series. So yeah, Castlevania, highly recommended. Highly recommend the series at large. Be sure to check all that out. But anyway, that's going to do it for tonight, guys. If you enjoyed tonight's content, please be sure to like and subscribe. I do these videos every week at 8 o'clock on Saturday. Basically, what I do is I pick a game and I play it for an hour while talking about the gameplay mechanics, the history behind it, all that good stuff, because I just love talking about game design. It's one of my passions. I do not play games from start to finish unless, they're short enough to where I can complete them in an hour, as is the case with Castlevania. Because I want to encourage people to actually play the games themselves, because I feel like you lose something if you choose to, watch someone else play a game instead of play it yourself. But yeah, if there's any game you would like me to play for the live stream, please be sure to leave it in the comments. I'm probably not going to add anything to the schedule for the next couple months, because I am doing my Halloween content, and the plan is to play a horror game from every generation. So stay tuned for that, and also be on the lookout for my Gameology series on the survival horror genre. But that's going to do it for tonight, guys. I hope you all have a good work week, and take care.